Hi Stampers, this is Kim with Great Inspirations. Welcome to my first video in my Stamp Happy Halloween video series. Now, as some of you know, I do have my Stamp Happy Holidays series going on at the moment, and those are for Christmas cards. But for this month of September, I thought I would give you some ideas for some Halloween cards, or maybe if you don't make Halloween cards, some little treat bags that you can come up with for some of your special trick-or-treaters, or that kind of thing. Now, I send out a few Halloween cards, and I definitely have some I give to some of the children in my life. But I don't make as many Halloween cards as I do Christmas cards. But they are one of my favorite types of cards to make. Because with Halloween cards, if you get something a little off, it's okay, because Halloween's supposed to be a little spooky, scary, out of the realm of the ordinary, and most of all, fun. So let's take a closer look at some of these cards. And the first thing you might notice that they all have in common is their backgrounds. All of their backgrounds have been stenciled. So that's what I thought we would take a look at today, stenciling our backgrounds. Now for these cards right here, here's one that says Boo, and this is an image from a stamp set from years ago from Stampin' Up! Called Tableau of Terror, and I have just always loved that image. I don't know why, I just do, and I use it every now and again on my Halloween cards. But as you can see, the background, I have just stenciled some circles, and I used the green and some purple and some more green. But as you can see, the blending isn't all that great, because some of my green is kind of a brownish, purplish, and some of the purple is more green. That's what I mean. It's okay, because it's Halloween. Any other time of year, I may not use this background, but for this time of year, for a Halloween card, it looks just fine. So we have Boo, and then just a die cut Happy Halloween inside. Then this is the exact same stencil, only I used a shadow technique where first I stenciled the circles in a very light gray. In this case, it was a smoky slate from Stampin' Up! And then I went back with a darker color, the Memento Tuxedo Black, and stenciled that over. I just barely moved the stencil a bit to the right to get what looks like a shadow. And then for my cat, this is a die cut. And then I took it is not a die cut, it's a punched image. It's actually pattern paper from Stampin' Up! From several years back, and I still had some. And I had the punch, so I punched out the cat. And then I took some smoky slate, this very light gray cardstock, and punched out another image of the cat and just shadowed the cat with that to mimic the shadow of the circles, and added the trick or treat for a greeting, and inside a strip of this stenciled paper and Happy Halloween. This one, I just used a stencil with bigger circles. I did make it a full-size slimline card. Most of you know I prefer to make mini slimlines, but for this one, I thought just to get the oranges and greens and purples all in there that I would use a full-size slimline. And you can see the shadows. And then I cut out some of those and just added them for a bit of dimension to the card. And then inside we just have Happy Halloween. So let's look at these three, and then we'll talk more about the circles. These three I did with different stencils. Now, there are different names for stencils. Some, like Stampin' Up! Calls them decorative mask. Crafters Workshop puts out some they call templates. And then there are others that are just stencils. But it's all basically the same idea. And on all these, I use 3 different versions of trees to make my spooky forest background. And here we have a little werewolf with its Halloween. And then just treat yourself. Here's some bats in a very spooky forest. And it's Happy Halloween. And then 2 little ghosts peeking out from the trees in the forest with Boo. And then have a fabulous Halloween. So we'll talk about these in just a moment, but now we'll go to the circles. So when I do my stencils, some of you have a sticky mat, that's great. I don't have one, I don't know, I'm just still not convinced I need one, but we'll see how long that lasts. But I usually just put my paper underneath and use washi tape or something. Sometimes I just hold it down and do my stenciling. And normally I may stencil a few colors, sometimes just one. But normally I just do it, here it is, green, purple, orange. And then the ones that are the blended ones in between the different colors. But I watched a video some time ago, maybe a couple years ago, where the person, and I cannot remember her name, I'll try, and if I can, I'll put it on my blog, but she made a shadow like I did with this one. I was so shocked because I had done that before, but it was on accident. So I saw no value to it, but then when I saw what she did, I thought, oh my goodness, you know, I should have given that a second thought. But anyway, this is how I usually do. But if you don't know how to do the shadow, we'll just practice a little bit here. So I'm going to line my paper up on the grid. Get my stencil on here. And I'll just use a little washi tape to hold it down. And I have, you can use blending brushes, you can use sponges, you can use whatever you want to get the ink on. I am going to use these little dome sponge things. These came from scrapbook.com. I think Tim Holtz or Ranger has some as well. But I'm going to use some black ink, but first let's use the gray, which that looks kind of purple. So I'm going to use Stampin' Up! Smoky Slate. And we won't do this whole thing, we'll just do part of it. And just get some ink on here. And just start stenciling. And I don't think you'd have to use just gray. You could use any light color, like maybe light teal, a really light green. I'm thinking of in Stampin' Up! Colors, because those are the ones I'm most familiar with. I'm thinking like Pool Party or Soft Seafoam, something like that. Okay, that should be enough. So we've got some gray ink on there. Now we need to move our stencil over just a tad. Okay, so I can see the gray. Now, if I were going to use a color like orange or purple, red, green, whatever, I would probably wipe off my stencil, but because I'm going to put black on here, I'm not going to worry too much about it. Just going to line it up a little bit and then move it slightly to the right. Okay. And then we're going to take some black ink. And just go over what we've gone over before. If you need to go over twice to get it however dark you want it, that's fine. Because you can always add more color, just can't take it off. So that should be good. Drive me crazy rolling around everywhere. And then we'll move that. And there you go. There's our little shadows on our dots. So that just adds some dimension or the look of dimension to your background. And it's fun. So, you know, it's fun to do. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with just the single color, but I really do think the shadow adds dimension. So we'll put those over there, and we'll put this stencil away. I'll need to be cleaning that off to be sure now that I have black ink on it. Now let's bring these cards in and talk about them a little bit. So here are the stencils I used. This, like I said, is by Crafters Workshop, and they call it a template. And I just put it on the cardstock, just like that. And here's another one. I believe this one is called Branches, and this one is called Aspens, or something Aspens. It will be on my blog. And these are still available, and I was very surprised because I got these, I had written on here in 2012. So that's cool that they're still around. But you can see I just kind of put them on my paper. And then I began to use this gray ink, and that is Distress Oxide, and it's the Weathered Wood. And I realized, like, wait a minute. I wanted a night sky. And I do like the weathered wood for the night sky, but then when I removed the stencil, I realized, oh, I stenciled the sky. I mean, I knew I was doing that, but it just dawned on me. So in reality, these are not as much stencils as they are mask. They mask wherever you put this, the cardstock will retain its color, and the ink will go around the image, which worked out really well, I think, for my forest. But I think, in my mind, these are more rightfully called mask, but they are stencils. So, you know, just be aware that when you have something like this, that your image will be the color of the cardstock, and the ink that you apply will be your background. Now, for this, I'm thinking this came from Stampin' Up, and it was a very long time ago. It was before we were really using blending brushes and that kind of thing, so it's fine. It worked. I really had to be careful, though, because I don't even know how I had it on there. It's very, well, to be honest, it's flimsy. And it doesn't stay put very well at all. So it was just a little difficult. I really had to hold close, have my hand really close to whatever area I was applying the ink to. Did you see it moved a little bit right there? But this is indeed a stencil, because this is the image, your trees are the image that will be stenciled onto the paper. And I use the same. It's the black cardstock with the weathered wood, but in this time the weathered wood, that's our trees. And then down here at the bottom, this is just a texture stamp that I had. I just needed some ground, had to ground my trees. But that was all I really wanted to talk about the stencils, that just be aware that when, you know, where's the ink going to go, and what will be the color of the cardstock. So that's my little tip on those for today. So I've had my bats, and those are just from a punch. I think I also have some dies that are bats. And then our trees here, and the little ghost peeking out from behind the trees. And there's a couple ways you can do that. What I did, I just took a craft knife and cut along the tree and poked my little ghost in there and taped it into place. And then there's little dimensionals that helps them to stick out a bit. You could also just cut the ghost off. Just draw a line where you want and just cut it and put it up against the tree. But I decided I really wanted it to look like it's poking out from behind the tree, so that's why I used the craft knife. And I just cut the width, just measured this and cut that width right there. So there's the Spooky Forest cards, and then our die cut dot cards. And there you go. There's some ideas for your Halloween cards. Thank you so much for joining me for my Stamp Happy Holiday, or not holidays, I'm sorry, for my Stamp Happy Halloween video. And join me next week and we'll have some more ideas to share. The instructions for these cards, measurements, the stencils I used, that kind of thing can be found on my corresponding blog post. And the link to that blog post will be found in the description of this video. Again, thank you for joining me, and until next time, stamp happy.